All right, we are live. Happy July, everyone. The June numbers for the Vancouver real estate market are out, and there's some new regulations and opportunities that will affect those of you making some moves. So sales are slowing, inventory is increasing, and our real estate market here is really shifting more towards a balanced market. Something very atypical of Vancouver real estate market, but it's giving way to some great opportunities, and that's what James and I are excited to dive into today. So if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about real estate in Vancouver, make sure to subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications to be the first to learn what's going on in the current market here in Vancouver. My name is Megan Becker, local realtor. Myself and James Knull, CEO of Mogul Realty Group here. Our team gets calls every day from people looking to make this incredible city their home. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, text, or email, and we're excited to tour you around or talk about investing, whatever moves it looks like for you in the greater Vancouver area. So if you're tuning in live, make sure to toss your questions in the chat, and we will absolutely get to those. How are you doing today, James?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Megan. I'm super excited to talk about some of these changes because there's two major changes that happened this month that are really going to impact anybody looking to do business in Vancouver. So I'm excited to dive into what those mean.
Absolutely. So today we're going to dive into the most recent one. So there's new regulations regarding governing tenant evictions. There's new opportunities with the Multiplex plan, that affects all over the greater Vancouver area. And of course, we're going to dive into the numbers and share what all of those mean to you towards the end here. So let's talk about this new tenant eviction regulation. So new regulations are now in effect. So it's a couple things. The biggest thing is that landlords now need to give tenants 4 months notice to evict them, unlike the previous 2 months. So let's just play this out. I played out this scenario. So let's say you write an offer today and you remove subjects on July 24th. Landlord gives tenant notice to vacate. So that 4 months starts in August. So it's August, September, October, November. The earliest that you could take possession of a property is December 1st. So that's one of the biggest changes. What are a couple of the other ones that they put in effect, James?
Well, I think that's the most impactful change because it's going to really impact the market in terms of people who are looking to make a move. I do think it's a really great change because with the way that we are working through a housing shortage here in Vancouver, it really does give tenants that extra protection, extra time to move if their landlord and the property owner is making a change with the way the property is being used. In this market, it takes time to find a place to live. So I think it's terrific that tenants now have a little bit more time to find their new place if a new purchaser is going to be moving in and making that place their home. Now, 4 months, that is a long period of time. And so I think it means something different for sellers, something different for purchasers. I'm going to talk about what I think it means for purchasers first. As a purchaser of a property, as someone who's looking to buy a new home in the Vancouver area, I think you really have to shift your mindset towards giving yourself more time to make that move. It's going to be a little bit more rare to buy a property and move in 2 to 4 weeks. Maybe if it's vacant, maybe if it's seller occupied. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of properties in this city, especially a lot of properties that would be defined as a starter home, more affordable condos, more affordable houses with secondary suites, those properties more often than not have tenants living in them. So if you're thinking about buying in the marketplace, well, it's time to shift your mindset, shift your strategy, shift your approach around knowing that, even if you find the place that you fall in love with today, it could be as many as 4 to 5 months before you get keys and get possession and can start moving in. So, it's just something to be aware of and something to plan for.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with any change, there's pros and cons with everything, and those are the conversations that we're having with our clients, is how to strategize, whether you are a purchaser and you're looking at a potentially tenanted unit, or whether you are a seller and you're planning on selling one of your investment properties. There's strategies there that will definitely can be put in place to lead to greater success on whatever side of the transaction that you're on.
Well, let's talk about the seller side of the equation, because at a glance, let's be honest, it does increase the timeline that you are going to have to deal with to sell your property. But it does also put the conversation with your tenant at the forefront. Legally, that tenant now has 4 months to move, a 4-month eviction notice. And that's fair. That's something we have to work with. And that's something you have to make sure that buyers are aware of, you articulate in the listing, and you work with your showings. However, it at least is also, when we think about it in its most basic terms, a contract. It's a legal agreement between a landlord and a tenant. And, the old phrase, everything's negotiable. So if there's a situation where you really would prefer it, if it's at all possible for your tenant to move out a little bit sooner, it's never off the table to renegotiate terms with your tenant. So there are situations that arise where, hey, you know what? If an offer to purchase comes in on your property that's so appealing to you that it makes sense to then forward a conversation to the tenant and ask, hey, you know what? You've got 4 months. It's my intention to respect that if you need your 4 months. However, is there anything that I can do to make it appealing to you to move a little bit sooner? Because from my perspective, it would be great if you could. So let's have a conversation about that. In some situations, the tenant's going to say, I'm sorry, but I need my 4 months. In some situations, the tenant's going to say, you know what? If you're able to help me out by, and this is just a brainstorm, there's plenty of different options available. If you're able to help me out by covering some of my moving expenses, giving me a bit of a rebate to help with finding a place sooner, giving me a bit of a rebate because, you know what? I haven't found a place and I might need to move into an Airbnb for a couple of months. Like the brass tacks of it is, if you're getting an offer where there's enough money on the table that it's worth your while to help the tenant in that way, well, there's a conversation there. Of course, the tenant isn't obligated to say yes to anything, but as we know, in business, in real estate, it never hurts to ask. And so those conversations, I think, are going to start coming up a little bit more between landlords and tenants. And of course, you know what? If everybody's happy and it's a win-win and an agreement can be reached, there's really a good opportunity to do some business there.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, because I think a lot of people look at these situations like, it's landlord versus tenant, when in reality, I think that's when you start to see issues and things get taken, get escalated to courts and things like that. But if you, whichever side you're on, you put yourself in the other person's shoes and say, how could we come to a mutual agreement and find a situation that is beneficial for both parties? And exactly like you said, those were some great options that, we've used in these situations before, because again, nobody's intention is to, harm the other party. Everybody wants to, move forward and sell the property or find a new property or what have you. And so I think it's being creative and finding solutions to that.
Absolutely. So I think it's something to be aware of. Be mindful of it. It is going to change the way that we buy and sell houses here in Vancouver. But at the end of the day, it's something that we can work with. And you know what? Business is going to keep happening. So Megan, the next thing I'm excited about chatting with you about are these changes that have happened to multiplex development in Vancouver. So I'd love to hear what just happened and what it looks like for Vancouverites.
Yeah. So as of June 30th, basically all of the greater Vancouver area now has bylaws in place that you can redevelop and essentially put higher density onto single family residential lots. And this is an initiative to just increase the amount of affordable housing. As everybody knows here, Vancouver's landlocked. It can't grow out like a lot of other cities that just can keep expanding, where mountains and oceans, and obviously things can grow out into the valley. But this is Vancouver's way of increasing that density, and it's becoming a more and more popular city. And so what it's looking at, just high level example, you get a 4,000 square foot single family lot. It now can be redeveloped, and you can put 4 4 units on that lot, and there can be multiple configurations of it. If there's a lane, you can have a laneway home, or a triplex, or side by side duplex, or front back duplex, or some combination of that. But what this change is allowing is a lot of investment opportunities that people of varying different situations can take advantage of.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the Vancouver municipality understanding that there's a shortage of housing. There's a lot of people that want to live in this city for good reason. Beautiful place to live, awesome lifestyle, and there's not enough houses for all these people.
Yeah.
And the solutions that we've been working with in Vancouver have been big multi-unit developments, townhouse complexes, low rises, high rises. Okay, a lot of people will fit there. And then we've got a ton of single family, which is houses or maybe houses with basement suites. This is fulfilling what's called the missing middle, which is property that wouldn't classify as big multifamily, but it's bigger than one property. The exciting thing about it is that it's accessible to more people to build. Very few people have the capacity to build multi-unit developments, either low rises or high rises. There are a lot more people out there that can build a sixplex, that can access one of these small multifamily developments. And so because there are more people who have the opportunity and the availability to build this sort of thing, I think we're going to see more of it getting built, because the city of Vancouver wants this type of housing. And as we're already seeing plans being drawn up, I've looked at a lot of blueprints from a couple of different developers in conversations that I've had. There really is a desire to make properties that are what we like to call architecturally relevant. We don't want these things to stick out like a sore thumb and quote unquote ruin the community or be an eyesore on a beautiful character street. The plans that are going to get approved are going to be properties that just fit right in and are great places for, 6 families to live in. Because you know what? Some people, a lot of people, can't afford $1.5 million, $2 million properties, but they can afford something that's, closer to $750,000 to $1 million. These properties are really going to satisfy that price point and create more inventory available for people to live in.
Yeah, it's going to give way of a lot of opportunity, because there's a lot of condos, and you have a couple with a kid or two. They don't need a condo. They've got, typically in a lot of these situations, they've got the budget, but they don't have that $1.5 million budget that's going to get them a townhome, or close to the 2 million that's going to get them a duplex here in Vancouver specifically. And then I think the other opportunity is it's going to allow people, let's say that you have a single family home on a really great lot here in Vancouver, and you're getting up in age and you're wondering what to do with it. There's a few different options there. Obviously, there's the opportunity to sell it. And I think the asterisk with that is making sure that the realtor that you're working with understands how to value lots with this multiplex plan that's going to come into effect here. Because if you're just comparing other comparables that sold on your street, let's say you have a 4,000 square foot lot, you have just a single family home there, maybe you've got a suite downstairs, but you're comparing that to a similar property that sold for, let's just say, 2 million. If your realtor is not savvy and they're taking that multiplex plan into consideration, because with this new plan, you now have the potential to redevelop your lot and put 4 units on it, thereby increasing the value of that lot. The rule in real estate, their highest and best use. So you're going to want to value that lot at its highest and best use.
Yeah, and that's from the owner's perspective. From the developer purchaser's perspective, well, gosh, lots that we could develop multiplex property on, we're getting fewer and fewer and fewer and further and further and further between. Now there's a whole new set of properties available for small time developers to be able to do a project with. So I think it's going to be a very exciting time for houses with lots in the Vancouver area, because there's all these new properties that are now available for construction to happen that wasn't available before. I completely agree with what you're saying, where it's going to drive the value of these lots right up. So if you own one, you want to be forward thinking. The comparables that would have valued your lot from the last 6 months aren't going to be the valuation of the lot going forward, because the buildable area available on that lot just went up, which now increases the value of that square of land. So when you're out there shopping, you know, it's going to always be the push and pull between buyer and seller. We're going to say, hey, sellers, know what your lot is worth and make sure you're working with a realtor who's savvy enough to value it properly. On the flip side of the coin, if you're an investor, I think there's going to be opportunities out there to purchase lots from people who haven't been paying close enough attention, who might not realize that the value of their lot has gone up. Because we're early on in the changes, there's going to be this adjustment period where there will probably be lots selling below what they could be worth, because people just aren't really sure of the implications of the new value. So I think there's going to be a period here where there's going to be an opportunity to pick up a great lot at a price point that you just, quite frankly, aren't going to see next year.
Yeah. And I think the other opportunity, if you don't necessarily want to straight up sell your lot, is you can partner with the developer. You know, especially people that are getting old, and if you want to age in place, you can now, you know, or have kind of a multi-generational family in one lot and have separate suites. There's a lot of really cool opportunities that I think that we're going to be able to see, and people of all different circumstances being able to take advantage of it as an investment here, which is really cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. The options are going to be just fantastic. So I'm excited to see how this shakes out. Key takeaway, make sure that your realtor knows what you're working with, because if you're a buyer, there's going to be opportunities. And if you're a seller, you want to make sure you get the right value for your property. Now, Megan, I want to get into our grand finale. We always want to know what's happening with the numbers, with the stats, what's been going on in the market at ground level, so that we can talk about what the implications are for people who are thinking about buying and selling.
Yeah, so here are the numbers. To summarize it up, sales have definitely slowed, and inventory is rising in levels that we haven't seen in quite a while. So sales for the month of June were 2418. This is down 13% month over month, down 19% year over year. And listings have increased again month over month. We're now sitting at 14,182 listings, up 4% month over month and 42% year over year. Sales to active listing ratio is for detached homes is sitting at 13%. Attached homes, so your duplex townhomes, sitting at 21%, and then apartments are sitting at 20%. So when you're looking at that sales to active listing ratio, anything around that 20 or above is considered a seller's market. That 12 or below is considered a buyer's market. And then, you know, in between you're sitting really balanced. So our detached homes are really trending towards that balanced market, which we haven't seen in a while. And then if we look at sale price, so for all categories, we're pretty flat month over month. Detached homes benchmark sale price, we're sitting at $2,061,000. So it's down 0.1% month over month. We're up 4% year over year. Attached, we're sitting at $1,138,000, which is down 0.6% month over month, up 3% year over year. And then apartments are sitting at $773,400, which is down 0.4% month over month and up 1% year over year. So like I said, pretty flat month over month. We're still trending up year over year. But what are some of your kind of take home messages from this? What does this mean for people looking at making moves right now?
Yeah, you know, what I've been thinking a lot about lately is the fact that we saw a decrease in the interest rate last month. And I think what ended up happening is a lot of sellers who have been waiting to get their property in the market thought to themselves, finally, interest rates are coming down. That means buyers are going to get interested, which is why we're seeing the amount of listings creep up and up and up. We're getting more inventory coming on the market. But on the other side of the table, those buyers, they're not convinced yet. One interest rate decrease hasn't given us a rush of consumer confidence yet, which is why we haven't seen the sales numbers jump in proportion to the listing numbers. What that means, I think, is that if you're listing right now, you still have to be very aware of the fact that prices are not being driven forward and that you have to price intelligently and you have to price prudently to get your place sold. There's no listing high and waiting for offers to come in and hoping people negotiate. If you're not listed spot on with market value, you're going to be a listing that's going to be sitting. Conversely, as a buyer, people, to use the old metaphor, people haven't hopped on the dance floor yet. So if you're willing to be one of those first few people to enter the market as interest rates are dropping down, there's deals to be had. When we look at the sale to list price ratio, that market is still balanced. And I would say, even for detached, it's pushing towards buyers. So while it's in that sweet spot, while we have a window of opportunity, not a terrible time to buy, because I think we can all agree that interest rates are trending down. And so, for someone who wants to work with the trends, there's an opportunity to get a good deal on the purchase price now, get a variable rate mortgage, ride that variable rate down. And then, maybe it's 12 months, 24 months, 2.5 years. When the interest rate hits a sweet spot that you're comfortable with, that's the time to lock in the interest rate. I think as a buyer, that's the way to have your cake and eat it too right now.
Yeah, I'm working with a handful of clients on the buy side right now. And I've been telling them, like, we're at a really unique point in the Vancouver market right now, because we're seeing properties and they're not instantly going. We're seeing price reductions and we're not seeing multiple offers and massive lineups at open houses. And we have a lot of inventory to choose from. And I said, I think that we're kind of in that sweet spot, because we're going to have another interest rate announcement at the end of this month here. And I think, again, there's a lot of people that are just sitting on the sidelines. And so I think the fall is going to be a little bit busier. And so we're right in that sweet spot right now in the summer, where people are, taking their summer vacations and not really focused on buying or selling. And so I think there can be some really great opportunities on the buy side right now. And then on the listing side is I'm seeing a lot of listings that are just marketed poorly. The photos aren't great. They're not staged. You go into the open house and they don't show well. And especially in this market, if you are going to market how you show up online and how you show in an open house, like, it's like a dating profile. Like, you need to win people over. And because when buyers have multiple options to choose from, they're just going to swipe. They're just going to click on to the next one. If yours doesn't stand out, or the pictures are poor, the lighting's not great, or it's not staged, or they can't really get an idea of what to do with the space from the photos that they see online.
Completely agree. So, what do you think? We got that interest rate announcement coming up. What is your realtor's intuition, your spidey sense telling you? What do you think we're going to see in a week here?
Yeah, my money is on a decrease again. My intuition says it's not going to be anything substantial, like very similar to the last one, like kind of a 0.25. But what are your thoughts?
I completely agree. I think it's going to be another 0.25. When we look at, the decision is made based on the quote unquote Canadian real estate market, but a third of that market is Ontario properties, and the fact of the matter is Ontario real estate's not doing so hot right now, and so their market has cooled significantly more than Western Canada. And so when the Bank of Canada is looking at what's going to stimulate the Canadian housing market, well, they're looking at what's going to stimulate the Ontario housing market, and that market needs some stimulating.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that wraps it up for now. So I hope you guys got value from this. If you have any questions, all my info is in the description box below. So please reach out. James and I would love to connect and further the conversation. And then make sure you guys tune in next month. You can see if we are right with our prediction of a 2.5 or 0.25 decrease in interest rates. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.